Hello, everyone, and welcome back to part two of episode two on this tutorial series. In the previous episode, we had covered, part one of episode two, we had covered attack speed and attack damage and how they work, how they scale, as well as the types of damage. If you haven't watched the previous episode, the link is in the description below. Now, the third type of damage in a game comes with crit damage. I will explain crit damage with by actually playing a game. In this case, I'm just trying to get a few more monsters, level them up, merge them to get something like a space soldier or else a higher level monster. But okay, we can just use this. For example, let's look at pirate. Pirate has, if you click on the enemy and if you click on the monster on the top on the data card, you can see all the metrics that we have already looked at: damage, bonus damage, attack speed. The second number is attack speed, so it has an attack speed of 7.15. The boss damage. Now, below that, on the below the bottle logo, if I click on the bottle, it will tell you the skill that this monster has. If you click on the skull, it will tell you what skill is. Below that, you see these attributes. The one on the right was that's crit damage. It says plus 35%. Crit rate is plus 13%. Attack speed is plus 17.5%, and attack plus 24%. So this attack plus 24% is contributing to the green number, the bonus damage. Attack speed plus 17.5% is your bonus attack speed that has increased in this game. So base attack speed of 7.15 and plus 1.25, it has gotten 17.5% extra attack speed. Now coming to the crit rate and crit damage. What crit damage is on each attack, a pirate would do by default 426 plus 102. Let's say 528 damage with each attack. But there's a chance that it can do critical damage with each attack. Now, if it does critical damage, it will do 35% extra damage. So like 35% more than what it would have done without with a regular attack. So that's what crit damage is. And there's a crit rate. The crit rate determines how often that will happen. So on average, only 13% of pirates attacks will be critical attacks. 13% of the time he will be doing 35% extra damage. So like 35% extra damage with 528 base damage, that's almost like 800 damage it's doing instead of 528 damage. So crit damage is quite powerful, but it's only good on certain heroes. Depends on how the hero scales. So like with demon gods, with pirate, with space soldier, can I get, let's try to get a space soldier, and that will clear things up more easily. But yeah, so crit rate determines how often you crit. Crit damage is when you actually do crit, what is the final damage that you'll be dealing to the enemy. Now, crit damage and crit rate both can be modified. For example, if I just look at, can I get a similar hero? Yeah, let's look at this vigorous warrior orc. I'm looking at the one on the right most. That has a crit damage of 35% and a crit rate of 13%. But the vigorous orc right next to it is the same orc. It now has a crit rate of 65%. The reason being it's standing next to the Regic. Regic is a demon god that he has an ability that raises the crit rate of monsters around him. So he has an ability, he grants 52% increase to the crit rate of every hero around him, every ability, every monster around him. So now this orc is critting 65% of the time, which is quite a high crit rate. Now, if you max it out, if you make it 100%, let's say if I have one more Regic over here, instead of this greenstone, if I can get a Regic, then Vigorous Orc will be critting 110% of the time, which is like above 100, it doesn't really matter. So each attack will do critical damage, and critical damage for the orc is extra 35% damage. Now, if we have something like a space soldier, can I get a space soldier? Yep. So with Space Soldier has an ability. It's doing crit 65% of the time. But let's look at the crit damage. It's increasing 249, to 308, 347, 716. So the way the crit works on Space Soldier is with each kill stack, it gets more crit damage. If you look at the ability, it does 6.5% critical damage for each kill stack. So with each attack, if it if it crits, if you get a critical attack, it is going to do 3,800% more damage. That's 3.8 times what the baseline damage is doing. So like my space soldier currently is doing about 2 million damage. If it crits, it's going to do 5x damage, so like 10 million damage. That is what's really powerful about space soldier. We'll make a separate video on space soldier, how to max it out and all. But crit damage can increase, and there are ways to modify crit damage. It depends on the monster type, it depends on relics, it depends on the monsters around you. But crit damage, increasing crit damage is good on certain demon gods, not good on all of them. uh, Crit rate can be increased by regex, it can be increased by witch doctors, it depends on the ability. But if you can max out crit rate above 100%, it doesn't really matter. uh, if you can, for space soldier, I would generally max it out to 100% to crit every time, because space soldier just does a lot of critical damage. With other monsters, with the skeleton for example, it does only 35% crit damage. It's not a big advantage where I would focus on maxing out the crit rate. It doesn't really help as much. Its baseline crit rate is 13%. I don't really care, like, because the damage is not that good. But yeah, that's crit rate and crit damage. It varies for each demon god. We'll make a separate video on each demon god, how, what, whether it's important or not. Like crit rate, crit damage, very important for space soldier. It's not really important for Oni, because Oni does percentage damage. Also, crit only affects the base damage and the bonus damage. It does not affect any other abilities. If Oni does percentage damage, 5% percentage damage, it won't become magically 5x, or you can't crit on those type of attack damages. It's only on the baseline. So like for space soldier, it does currently is doing 5.3 million base plus bonus damage. Crit only affects that. When we look into the actual formula, it'll be clearer like why that happens. But yeah, coming on to the last ability, the last metric when it comes to these data cards is range. Range is the number of tiles where the monster covers for to attack. So if an enemy creep enters in that range, that's when your monster will attack. The range determines that value, and for each monster, the range differs. Early on, monsters cannot have a very low range. Like this monster, crossbow, has an attack range of just 1.5. Rarer. Oh, sorry. Crossbow is rare. Common has an attack range of 1. They can only attack one enemies which are one tile away. Crossbow can attack 1.5 tiles away. Flower Golem can attack 2 tiles away, and so forth. Legendary can attack 2.5, or like even farther. For example, Outlaw, Soul Reaper also 2.5. Some demon gods have a range of 4. Like Cannon, for example, when you fortify it, it has a range of 4, so it can target enemies which are 4 tiles away. Space Soldier has a range of 3. So the range can be an important factor, because the farther away you can target, the quicker you can attack enemy creeps or enemy bosses. Also, your layout is fixed. So if you have a higher range, your monsters can attack from farther back. So you don't have to wait for them to reach your monster before they can attack. Your monsters can attack as soon as the creep spawn, if they are within range. So if your creep has very high range, you would want to keep them further back, because they can still attack. If they have very low range, you would want to keep them as close to the T as possible, because otherwise they will just never get a chance to attack. There are some creeps which don't have which have very fixed range, or their range can't be modified. For example, Phantom Slime, the way it works is by having does damage around it, so its attack range will never change from 1. Similar to Ice Knight, Ice Knight will never be able to change its attack range. There are in-game bonuses, there are abilities that can change the attack speed of the other monsters, but Ice Knight cannot change attack speed. It's written in the description somewhere. So yeah, unaffected by range changes. It will always be 1.5. Range doesn't become a huge concern for most games. Uh, you typically have a build which will account for the individual monsters' ranges, where they can reach. The placement also is determined by where they can reach. If you have good range heroes, there's a benefit to placing them in the T, because then they can attack your allies' side of the map as well. Uh, but yeah, that's the range. The number of tiles it covers is not just orthogonal, or rather, it's only orthogonal. It's not diagonal. So four tiles in each direction, and it becomes a rectangular region. So along the diagonal, it is crossing more than four tiles in distance. But yeah, so that's range, and those are the different attributes or terms that are used to determine what the strength or what the damage output would be for each monster. We'll look into a full length video on the formula and how the final numbers are actually calculated. There are a lot more variables that come into play than more than just crit and base damage and bonus damage. There are various other abilities that need to be considered, relics that need to be considered, and I will be making a full length video on that. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it was informational. Thank you.